So I'd like to tell you a little bit about cake boards. It's my personal belief that satin ice adds such a level of beauty and versatility to cakes that makes your cakes so much more interesting than so many others out there, that the last thing that you want to do is put a lot of work into a beautiful cake and present it on a foil board. I think that if you really notice a lot of the beautiful cakes that you see out there, you'll notice that there's something going on with the boards too. And that's because the boards are featured as part of the cake. They're not some, the cakes aren't sitting on some foreign thing. They're actually part of the design feature of the cake. So I'm going to show you a very easy way to make your own boards. You can make them custom and you'll never be disappointed. This is 1/2-inch foam core. I bought it at a local craft shop. I then outlined a cake pan that was a couple inches bigger than the cake that I have here. And what I have here is an X-Acto knife. I've traced the cake pan onto the foam core, and keeping an effort to keep your X-Acto knife perpendicular to the table or the surface because you want a straight edge on your board, I'm going to pierce through and I'm going to cut. Now, I am not even going to try to cut through this board in one turn. In fact, I'm not even going to try to do it in 2 turns. It's that effort of when you think that you have to get it done all the way the first time that will almost guarantee that you won't cut a clean board. I'll also tell you that this might take you a little bit of practice, but it is a skill that is very worth it. Particularly if you're a home-based business where you simply don't have the means or the interest to buy a lot of pre-made boards in volume, in the volume that you'd need to do to get a price that you would like. So these foam core boards come in 20 by 30 inch boards, so you can get quite a lot of cake boards out of them. So you'll notice that when I start to think that my knife might be going through the board, which it is now, I do lift up because the last thing I want to do is cut this, okay? It's very important that your X-Acto is sharp. Makes a huge difference. And you'll sort of feel it free itself. So there I have a beautiful board that I cut myself and that I'm going to cover myself. Okay? Now, to get to the point of cover, by the way, you'll notice a few little bits and edges here. That's easily sanded off with a piece of sandpaper. And so at this point, I would sand off the edges. And if you happen to have a sanding block that creates a perfectly straight surface, that's a really good use of it, to just sand down your board really quickly. Now, my favorite way of covering a board is to cover it in its entirety the day before I have to do a cake, maybe even 2 days before. I'll cover it in its entirety and I will let it sit somewhere safe so that it becomes very hard and I can't possibly mar the surface. In reality, sometimes that doesn't happen and you have to do it a little sooner than that. So all I would do to cover this board would be to put some water on it. Honestly, water is the easiest thing to do. And roll out fondant like I'd roll it for the cake, lay it over the top, and then I would trim the edges with a palette knife, just like this, and get a nice clean surface. I'd use my fondant smoother to make a nice surface, double check my edges, and then at that point I'd take a non-toxic glue stick, run it all the way around the edges, and then I'd run a ribbon all the way around the board, and I'd use a pin that would coordinate with the colors of my design, a pearl pin just at the edge where it overlaps, trim it, and you have a very beautiful board that you can use that looks like it's meant to accentuate your cake, not detract from it. So there you have the essentials of making and covering cake boards.